So, Asmongold got banned. Um, Cutting to the chase on this, I'm not sure the ban was warranted, even though it appears he said a couple of extreme things. I don't agree with him saying like they should apparently like shoot the migrants. I think most normal people would say, it they should be subdued rather than just shot across the border. Um, I I think most reasonable people would agree with that. And yeah, let's have a listen.
Hey guys, it's me again, and usually at this point I've already made like 2 or 3 other videos about why I got suspended on Twitch, and I've been farming this a lot, but unfortunately something that has nothing to do with Twitch at all actually took precedence over this, and that's why I haven't really made any comments or said anything on anywhere about any of this. And so first part of this video is going to be talking about that, and then the second part is going to be talking about the Twitch suspension. I got suspended for 2 weeks. I'll probably try to appeal it, see if I can get it down to a week. We don't really know. If not, maybe I'll stream on Kick or something. Maybe I'll just take a vacation. I'm not really sure. I haven't decided yet. But anyway, that's the TLDR. So about 3 or 4 days ago, because the day that I got suspended, I actually didn't even go live. Now, why is that? Well, it's because the day before that, I had a health symptom that was identical to my dad's health symptom before he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. So this, I got really upset. I was freaking out. And so I'm laying in bed, I'm fucking petrified, I am like panicked, I'm looking things up online, I'm messaging people.
Chat GPTing the shit.
I eventually go to the emergency room and I go through all of this, and I don't want to get into the details of what the symptoms were or anything, because honestly it's kind of gross, but all you need to know is that that's pretty much what happened. And so I fell asleep on the futon over there, and I wake up, and this is like the day I got suspended, and I had been like, at this point I had not been on my computer at all in like 24 hours, right? Because I was so stressed out and upset about this. All I could do was just lay down, and I didn't know, like, am I dying? Is there something wrong with me, right? And so I look at, and I see the reflection, like this is just stupid, but like I can see the reflection of this monitor from this monitor, and I can kind of see, like, are there new messages? And I saw that there was like a post about like a tweet, and I'm like, I just had a feeling that I was getting suspended, right? I just had a feeling, and I looked and I got suspended, and I was like, this is the first time I got on the computer. I'm like, well, how long is it? I said 14 days. I said, thank God, right? Thank God. Now I'm gonna have 2 weeks to deal with this problem, right? So and honestly, that's the way that I felt. Like, I wasn't really even stressed out or upset about it. I'm still really not. I mean, it is what it is, right? I mean, Twitch is fucking retarded, and what do you expect, right?
Yeah, I don't stream on Twitch because they are kind of fucking retarded.
But anyway, so all this happens, and, I immediately just got off the computer. I didn't really think about it, honestly. So because I was so worried about this health problem, then fast forward to the following day, I talked to some couple of people that I know that I could ask about this, and I get one person, I go, and I finally go to the emergency room after talking to one doctor, and they looked at everything. They, basically said, calm down, retard, it's okay. And, I'm okay, especially this morning. These symptoms have totally gone away. If you want me to be honest, like, just completely, like, 100%, like, just transparent, I'm still worried. I am. I'm 36 years old. I have had really no health problems ever in my entire life other than my teeth. And I see all of my friends that are like, now they have this issue, now they have that issue. And it's like, when is it going to be time? My mom used to always say, and this would always upset me, but it's true, something's going to take you home, right? And it does really scare me a lot. And I, like, a lot of
There's a quote for the ages.
times I like to think of myself as being above that, right? But whenever you're faced with it, I realized that I was very much below it. I was extremely scared. I was very upset, and I was really worried.
Scared.
And so I've been dealing with that for the past about 3 or 4 days. And now that it's at least partially resolved, I'm probably going to get a follow-up appointment and have, like, a bit more, like, testing done about this to make sure that I'm okay. But otherwise, like, that's pretty much the reason why I didn't make any comments about it. I was just so preoccupied with that that like I just didn't really even give a fuck about Twitch, right? I mean, it's funny how, you can have something that's like, one of the biggest parts of your life, which is like my stream, and then like something else can happen, and it's like the other thing just doesn't even exist anymore, right? It's a very, very weird paradox of life. But
yeah, life has a way of just making things unimportant when shit really matters.
anyway, so that's pretty much what happened with me, a couple of days ago and a few days ago. That's why I'd even taken a day off that day. And so, this happens, and I'm like, oh, wow, I'm such a relief. Now I don't have to feel bad about not going live, right? And so, anyway, I got suspended for 14 days. That's what happened. Again, wow, a 36-year-old man has a health scare. This has never happened before in the history of humanity. But yeah, that's pretty much what it was. So anyway, the second part is going to be about why I got suspended. So I got suspended because and just to add some context, because this has been very editorialized on the on Twitter and everything like this. But basically, what I said was that so CUDW, which is and a little bit of geography here. So Spain is like on the top of the Mediterranean Sea. Strait of Gibraltar is like right here, Spain, right? And so underneath that is Morocco. And
CUDW, where the fuck is CUDW?
in the very, very tip of Morocco, there's a city that's owned by Spain, and it's been owned by Spain for hundreds of years. This isn't like something that's new. This isn't like a recent occupation. This has been going on for like, since before like it's like the Ottoman Empire time days, right? I don't know. I remember reading the date that it happened, but it was like literally hundreds of years ago. So they've had this city, it's called CUDA, for a long time.
So instead of just saying like they should have secure borders and they could use rubber bullets at most to detain them, you're saying they should shoot men, women, and children in a war crimes-like act.
This population of about 80,000 people, and 40 to 60,000, obviously just by the nature of this, it's not really verified how many, random migrants just all came over in about basically 1 day's time into this small city. Now, this is, in my opinion, like in any other point in history, this would be viewed as a military invasion, because of course the overwhelming majority of these people are military-aged men.
That doesn't make it a military invasion, because the military would have to actually be involved. Just because you're of military age does not make it a military invasion. You could call it, I suppose, at most, a regular invasion. So there is that.
And so what I said is that I think that if you have that many people pouring over your border and you just can't deal with it all, like you can look at the footage of this and it literally looks like it's World War Z. It looks like a battlefield, right? It's like a hell on earth type situation. There's trash everywhere and everything. I think I'm straight up said I think you should shoot these people, right? I mean, like I believe that. I do. I mean, this is a violent military invasion into a city.
It's not a military invasion.
And after they got into the city, obviously these people were smashing out windows. They were obviously, breaking into stores, stealing things out of stores. I saw like one video. It's always hard to know like what's real and what's not. But I saw a video and it's like, if you ever watch Troy, like whenever like a fucking Brad Pitt as Achilles like stabbed the dude in the neck at the beginning of the movie, that's like what happened. Like one of these like migrants seemingly stabbed the random citizen in the neck.
Despite my disagreements, if that's a word, with Baldy on the Odyssey and the hoopla going into it, Troy is much better than the Odyssey.
With this knife, right? And they killed this person, I'm assuming, right? Or at least they're in critical condition. So basically the city is being terrorized by a mass invasion of military-aged migrants that have come over for, various different reasons. And people are saying that you couldn't do that because, well, there might be kids in the crowd. And my response to that is that you should shoot them anyway. You should do this anyway. And it doesn't matter really what the collateral damage is. You should...
This is where I can understand Twitch's point, because I don't think that's reasonable to say that kids are collateral damage in a situation like that.
defend your borders, especially when you're being invaded by such a massive force of people. So this never really was a conversation about like, baseline immigration enforcement. It was never about like, using kids or anything like that. But the reality is that with a lot of these third world countries and a lot of their cultures in the world, if you use a Western frame of reference to look at the values and the morality of the third world people like this, you're going to render yourself blind. You will not understand their theory of mind. They don't look at things the way that you do. That's why Joseph Kony has his child army, and there was Kony 2012 and everything. That never really went away, by the way. It's still happening. It might not.
This doesn't have anything to do with taking appropriate action. I mean, of course, people in the West are going to have different frames of reference and a different frame of mind from people in third world countries, but like that has nothing to do with like operating a secure border and not killing innocent children. So
Not be necessarily him, but there's other ones that are just as bad, if not worse. So the problem is that a lot of Westerners' morality is built off of the concept that everybody else thinks the way that we do, and unfortunately, that's not the reality.
Massive generalization and simply untrue in many cases.
And so what these people will do is that they will bring kids with them, and they will use these kids as effectively human shields in order to invade the country and then take advantage of the people in the country. I view this a lot like a trolley problem, and so the reason what I mean by that is that basically you're choosing to stop the invaders here rather than creating a reward structure and an incentive structure around using kids, trafficking children, and effectively using them as political capital to fulfill an invasion's goal.
Well, that's what the human smugglers are doing. And what Baldy's really talking about is the retard radical left. Not Trump's radical left where everything is radical left because they disagree with me people, but actual radical left. We all see them. We all know who they are, and that social media has polarized, done a good job in helping polarize.
Which is to effectively take over this country. We're not take it over, right? But like, invade the city and then use the city as a way to get into mainland Spain and then disperse themselves all over Europe. This is, I think, a very bad thing, and I think it should be stopped by any means necessary. I think this is a horrible problem. A lot of the people that are coming over there, many of them could be criminals. We have no idea. People said Morocco emptied their prisons and let those people come over. I have no idea if they did.
Well, there's no evidence for that, and that's a typical hardline conservative talking point, which should always be viewed with suspicion.
That or not. I would assume many cases they did. That's what Russia's done apparently with Ukraine, and so I don't really think this is the first.
That's a false equivalency because Russia and Ukraine are in all-out war with each other.
Time this has ever happened. There's many precedents for this. A lot of people look at this from the perspective of human rights or something like this, and I find this to be one of the most malignant and pernicious abuses and inversions of morality that we have nowadays, and I'll explain why. Never once have I ever heard about the human rights or the privileges or, what's the right thing to do for all of the people in this city who are now having to be terrified in their homes, boarding their houses up. You have these migrants banging on their doors.
That's completely ridiculous. Of course we care about those people. Both things can be true. You can care about the people in the city, you can care about the migrants trying to seek a better life. So it's completely ridiculous to say we don't care about the one set of people over here. We only care about the one set of people over there, unless you're talking about the fringe radical left lunatics.
Doors, smashing their windows, destroying.
So talking in these massive generalizations really doesn't help, get to his point of having a secure border and, that basically having a better immigration system. So I know he's completely against immigration full stop, it seems like, but the truth is that human rights and the international court does exist, and we should respect that. And that's about it, really.
their businesses, potentially violating them, attacking them, and doing whatever they can to these people. You never, not once in my entire life have I ever heard about the concept of their human rights. I never.
They have human rights. I'm saying it. And they don't deserve to have their city, if you want to call it invaded, we can use that word. They could be seeking asylum. I'm not sure about that. But the people of Spain, or where these Moroccan immigrants have tried to cross the border into, the people of the city have human rights. They have human rights. So I'm saying it. You can hear me say it.
Hear about the people who have been the victims of these policies and this lax enforcement, whose lives have been effectively destroyed, and then for some reason we never think about them. We don't care about them. The only people that we care about are these invaders that are going around trying to take advantage of the country. And I think this is a profound inversion of morality.
You say take advantage of the country. You could just be seeking a better life, which you've admitted on many occasions that you completely understand their position of whether they're in South America or Africa, of not blaming them and actually wanting to seek a better life. So I don't know if this is a backflip or 180-degree spin, or you're becoming a bit unhinged here or something.
I don't think that any country has an obligation to take in migrants. I don't think any country has an obligation to let people.
They do. Just basic humanity and decency at times. Not to the point where it's going to negatively affect your own country. But, yeah, I think basically being a good person and a decent person involves some humanitarian aid. Humanitarian aid has a long history, and if your country experienced an earthquake or a tsunami or something, you would expect humanitarian aid yourself.
Invade their borders. And I think that at the capacity that was happening with CUDW, I do think that you should use lethal military force to repel a literal fucking invasion. Keep in mind, this is a city of 80,000 people, and 40 to 60,000 additional people tried to come in one day. That's an invasion, and I think they should use guns to stop it. And I'm not sorry for saying that. And it doesn't matter what you try to use as, emotional blackmail or something like that. Fundamentally, all of these different tools that these people use will never actually be applied in a universal way. These are the same people whose ideology leads them to thinking that 6-year-olds can transition to another gender. They're the ones that lead themselves to, defending Hamas.
Again, massive generalization. He's basically talking about anyone who advocates for humanitarian aid or basic asylum seeker support advocates for cutting kids' genitals off, which is completely ridiculous. I think most reasonable people would see it as I see it.
And terrorist propaganda, because terrorists like to use kids as human shields as well, because they like to shoot rockets from schools. The reason why they do that is because there is a reward structure inside of our society that puts the damaging and the harm to children and women at a higher standard than the harm to, like, a military-aged man. Now, in a general sense, I would agree with that in a peacetime reality, but whenever these people are launching rockets and large-scale invasions, I think that you need to look at this as a wartime event. And I would ask yourself, how many people got killed?
It's not a wartime event. The wartime events are Orange Toad trying to go to war with Iran, and Vladimir Putin refusing to stop against Ukraine. Those are proper wartime events. So if we didn't have that, we'd be a lot closer to a peacetime reality.
In World War II, how many people get killed in every single war? Civilian casualties and killing anybody who's not a combatant is a tragedy. It's a horrible thing to have happen. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that you're not allowed to have borders, and it doesn't mean that you can't make decisions to protect your own people, even if it comes at the expense of other people.
And the problem is that he thinks that anyone on the left wing doesn't think that you should have borders. And as a member of the left wing, you should absolutely have borders, and you should absolutely do what you can to subdue and block those people from coming into your country, except for killing children and using lethal force. There's many ways to subdue people, and I think that is the most reasonable thing to do. You can use rubber bullets, you can use tear gas, you can use riot gear, but, just killing randoms, like in a ditch or something, or in the dirt, I don't think is the right way to go about things, and I think most people would agree with that. Both things can be true. We can have secure borders as well.
People that are trying to do this in bad faith and use this. And by the way, the usage of people like this as human shields is a war crime in itself. And that's, I think, the biggest issue that I have with a lot of these people that are criticizing this, is that I don't think that they really care about these kids. They don't give a shit about them. Like, these are the people, they'll bring kids to an ICE protest. Why would you bring a kid to a protest where there's rioting and there's flashbang grenades and tear gas being set off? And the truth is, and there is a reason.
The thing is, most people who disagree with you disagree like in are not such a narrow field of people like that.
For it. The reason why they do that is because they want to use these kids and the harm that these kids will inevitably go through because of collateral damage, and they want to use this as a political tool so they can advance their agenda. These people they're sick. They're sick, evil people. And I also referred to the people that use the human shields as animals.
Well, I don't know about these particular migrants, so you could easily be conflating Hamas terrorists with migrants, which I think is despicable.
Yeah, that's exactly what I think. I think they're fucking animals. If you use children as human shields in order for you to invade a country or in order for you to do terrorist attacks, I think that you're a fucking animal. And I'm not sorry for it. And I honestly think that most people agree with me. I think that almost everybody does. But unfortunately, we've had this inversion of morality where these truly evil, malignant, pernicious people have been allowed to use...
Assuming that they're the majority of the migrants, though, is completely foolish. That they're using human shields, I think, is possible. I haven't seen evidence for it, but I'm sure, it's out there on Twitter or wherever. The vast majority, I'm pretty sure, aren't using their kids as human shields, or the amount of human shields is in the vast minority.
This fake moral authority that they have to dictate that we have to allow terrorism, violence, and complete societal collapse, and if we don't allow this, somehow we're the ones that are evil. I reject this completely. And I understand that in doing so, there might be some people, this isn't a very comfortable thing to say. It's not a very polite thing to say. This isn't something that you'd read on a bumper sticker. But I think this is the nature of the world, and it's the nature of the reality that we live in. And I don't want to use a bunch of euphemisms and other types of vague and pacified language to discuss this in a way that is not authentic to its true harm and its true existence, which is what I think that's what it is. And I think that there are definitely criticisms people have of me that are valid, where like I probably do dial it up a little bit too much and maybe I could use different rhetoric, etc. But I want to let you know that I apologize for nothing. I meant exactly what I said, and I think that these borders should be defended with lethal force whenever it's being invaded by 40 to 60,000 people at the same time. That's an incredibly dangerous thing.
I'm not asking you to be sorry for what you said. But I can also see that the ban is justified. And I would just implore you to keep a bit more of an open mind, because I think you tend to have a thing where you think you're the smartest guy in the room, and in your own house you are. And I always try to look for people who disagree with me and get out of my echo chamber. And I think Twitter is one of the most harmful places to formulate opinions or get reliable news. So I would implore you to use another news service other than Twitter.
for all of the people that live in that country. And I don't think that a government has an obligation to allow a bunch of invaders to pour over and potentially kill their own citizens. I find this to just be horrible.
And any reasonable person would agree with that. But that doesn't mean that the opposite, even if the other people do disagree, that they're the same people that advocate for. My view is, I'm completely against the child surgery, and if you want to use the word mutilation, that I can understand that. For transitioning kids, I don't think should be allowed. So to assume like everyone who disagrees with you is like someone who advocates for like child surgery for gender transitioning, I think is completely ridiculous, and I think is misleading. I think it does a disservice to healthy debate.
And ultimately it should be stopped. Also, there are a lot of other patterns, like I'll give another parallel to this as well, is that in a lot of gang culture, what they do, and this is, of course, nothing like this is a monolith, but many of people like this, what they do is they'll use children to commit crimes because they know the children will not be sentenced in the same way that an adult will do. And what my biggest argument for all of this is that I generally, and I know people might not believe this, I think most people do believe this, but the people that don't like me don't believe this, or they don't want to, is that I think that I really do have the most moral and ethical position on this. Because the moment that you create an incentive, you also drive a behavior. And in my opinion, if you don't capitulate to this emotional blackmail,
I don't know how you can see how killing kids or women just let it be done is a moral, how you can claim to have the best moral position on that. Like, I don't see how you can claim that. But anyway, you're free to your opinion.
You also don't allow these people to target and victimize these children by using them as baggage and effectively shock troopers in order to accomplish a goal. So, for example, if these kids were being charged as adults, the entire tool that these people were using, these gangs were using, of having children commit crimes on their behalf, this tool would effectively be rendered ineffective. But we don't want to do that because it makes people sad to put kids in jail. But from my perspective, the way that I see it is that it makes me sad to see kids that were abused, that are trafficked, and that are put into these situations because the people that are truly and profoundly evil, the people that know this.
And this is where we actually do agree. And we both agree that the human traffickers and the human smugglers are the real problem.
Know that they can use these children because they can co-opt and use your morality against you.
But they're not the same as the actual migrants themselves.
So they can push their own evil designs. And I think that you do have to reject this in its entirety in order to have a society that isn't ruled by evil, inversion, and other types of just completely horrible people. And ultimately, you do have to sometimes make hard decisions like that, but ultimately making a hard decision like that should never have... that's my alarm. I was supposed to get up. It's 2:46 p.m. And so, excuse me on that. So you do have to make these hard decisions. You do have to do things that are obviously, sometimes not the nicest things in the world. But I think that in order to do that, you do that in the goal to preserve a culture that is the best place that you want to live in the world as well. So that's the problem that I have. I don't think that I said anything wrong. I think that a lot of people actually would agree with me. And I think that the way that we've taken military action in the past, things like, for example,
You haven't said anything wrong in terms of voicing your own... Well, I retract that. Yes, you have said something wrong for the umpteenth time. Innocently killing innocents is, the wrong thing to say. So you have said something wrong, and the ban is justified. But you're free to your opinion, irregardless. They're a private company. They're allowed to, use their terms of service. and that's about it. I wish you weren't so right-wing radicalized, but, I'm still a fan in general.
War II would indicate that actually this is not
And yes, I know you would never see this or give a shit, but anyway.
as much an objective reality that some people would make it out to be. And again, these are the same people that have no problem using children as props and having them
Completely false and untrue.
like groomed by adults, about their gender, taking them to ICE protests, putting them directly in danger.
Not everyone on the left wing agrees with that.
Because they're...
In fact, the majority don't. They're most working people who care about just cost of living on the left wing would not agree with, in general, I would say, with child transition surgery. So
rioters and criminals and violence there. Who would ever bring a kid there? And these are the same people that are saying that I'm wrong for saying that creating an incentive for people to human traffic children and use them as human shields is a bad thing. And so I apologize for absolutely nothing. I said it in a very abrasive way, and I'm going to continue communicating that way. It's how I was raised. The reality is that, I was driving my dad.
I was raised that way too, and it makes a difference if you're joking, but you weren't joking, so.
To the hospital. He was like getting one of his cancer treatments. And he said, well, what's funny about this? And I said, what? And he says, well, now they can say you killed me too, just like they say you killed your mom. That's the way I grew up. That's the way I communicate. And that's the way I think. And I'm not sorry. And I understand that sometimes I use abrasive language. Sometimes I communicate in a way.
There's a difference though, and I was also raised the same way, but there's a difference between abrasive language and just flat out wrong language, or just really bad things to, support.
That's a little bit, harsh, and, people can say I'm mean, they can say
I'm saying you're wrong, and you are wrong, and I've illustrated very well why, and it goes beyond harsh when you say, let's just shoot everybody and ask questions later.
I'm evil, they can say everything, but they're not saying I'm wrong. And I think that ultimately we should look at a lot of these uncomfortable truths with a lot more of a clear mind, rather than allowing it to be polluted by people that I think want to hurt us, people that want to put us in a position that is not advantageous.
Clear mind, but not clear bullets.
And that's the reason why I communicate the way that I do. It is hopefully to normalize this type of language and for people to see things for what they are rather than what they want them to be. And I think that's for better and for worse. So that's the reason why I talk the way that I do. I'm not sorry. It's probably not going to stop. I might try to. I'm going to try to obviously tone it down a little bit because I don't want to get suspended all the time, right? Contrary to popular belief, it's great to have a vacation, but I don't want to have them all the time. And so, that's pretty much where things stand. That's the way that I feel. That's my reasoning for it. I view it as a trolley problem, and I think it enables human trafficking the moment that you capitulate to that type of emotional blackmail. So that's really the way that I feel. And I know this might be a harsh opinion. It might not be something that everybody agrees with, but I think it is the ethically correct thing to do, given the implications of doing otherwise. So anyway,
well, all you have to do otherwise is just have a secure border and be able to use force in a safe way in order to subjugate rather than fatally kill or fatally just distribute force. You can use force to subjugate. You can use force for fatalities. I support the former. You're wrong for supporting the latter.